So during the big earthquake in '89, that day we were actually in San Francisco, and we were rehearsing to go out on our first big European tour. And interestingly enough, there were people from the BBC out in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were covering us because we were about to go to Europe, so they were in town to like shoot us, shoot this press junket to show. I think we were distributed by BCM. But anyway, the BBC was there. They were doing a story.
Those poor Brits must have been terrified.
Oh man, so it's crazy. So they're there, and then you have Shock G, who's from New York and Florida, never experienced an earthquake as well. I think we had a big earthquake in like 1977, if I'm not mistaken. So I had experienced an earthquake before because I grew up in the Bay, and we've had little tremors here and there. So earthquake, if I feel it, like you just kind of pause and see if it's big or little.
Is it gonna get? How big is this gonna get?
How big is this gonna get?
Right.
But I was used to it, as much as you can be. Right. But Shock had never experienced it. You had this camera crew from the BBC. Now we're rehearsing in this spot. Everybody's in there, and all of a sudden we start feeling it, right? And everybody's like, oh. Right, and everybody starts to trip out, and immediately Shock runs to the nearest doorway, like he's Spider-Man, like trying to, I don't know, protect himself. And back then, at this time, I was still smoking weed, so I was high. So I'm just like, what, right? And I just remember, as it started to, it continued. This was a bigger one. And so as it really started to shake, everybody runs outside, and I'm sitting next to the turntables, and I'm so high, I just look and I see the needles on the turntables are kind of jumping, and I just take both the needles and set them on their respective, like I set the needles.
Save the records.
Save the records, and then I walked out. And I was like, what?
So you were the last one out of the building.
I was the last one out of the building. I had to make sure that, Fuse is my man. I had to protect his records. So when I go out, we're like, wow, that was kind of big. And it's in the daytime, so you don't know that all the power is out. You just kind of like, what? But when you look up and down the street, everybody's outside. So you know that it's something serious. Right?
Yeah, all the locals are out. That's not a good sign. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's outside. And then this is 1989, so there are no cell phones. There's no internet. The only way that you could communicate is we had to get to a payphone. So I think maybe me and Fuse kind of go walking, searching for payphones. And as we get to each payphone, some of them are out. The ones that are still working, it's people there kind of lined up. So we don't know this, but it's being televised. The World Series is happening between the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants. It's the Bay Series, the Bay Bridge Series. So that gets interrupted. A part of the Bay Bridge collapses. We also find out that we lose the whole Cypress bridge structure, which goes through a part of West Oakland. And we don't know any of this, and we can't communicate to our loved ones back across the bridge, so they don't know what happened to any of us, because nobody can reach anybody. And as it starts to get dark, it starts to feel like almost like an apocalypse or something. People are freaking out, and then we find out, like, when we finally are able to leave, they say, hey, the Bay Bridge is down. You guys have to only way you can get back over to Oakland is across the Golden Gate Bridge, which is way out. You got to go through you have to go through the city to get, I think it's north, right? But as we're driving through the city and it's dark, power's out, and it's fires everywhere because, electrical lines, and it
Gas
just
lines
looked,
are going off, and yeah.
Yeah, it was, to me, at that time, and probably even more so now, the closest thing to, and what I could imagine maybe a war zone looks like, where it just looks like the city is self-destructing. Right. And I can only explain it like that because if you weren't there, you might think, oh, it was just an earthquake. No, bro, it shredded the city, right? And we were there riding through it and seeing what it looked like.
Right.
Buildings collapse, houses on fire, no power, all of that. And we have to, go across this bridge. And then to sort of add to that, we're supposed to shoot the video for the Humpty Dance like 2 weeks later. And the bridges are collapsed, nothing, so nobody can get across the bridge. So we didn't even think anybody was gonna show up to the Humpty Dance video because the only way you can get there, you either had to go back, because the video was in San Francisco. You had to go back either across the Golden Gate Bridge or the San Mateo Bridge, both which are out of the way of, if you live in Oakland, that goes, straight across. Or, and also our BART, which is our train system, was shut down because the tube that goes through under the water was cracked as well.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So the only way that you could get across is either travel to one of those bridges or you had to catch like a ferry to get across.
Wow.
So we were like, man, this is just super bad timing, bad news. Nobody's gonna show up. But as we know, people did show up. So that sort of tells you what our support was like back then, even before we became this quote unquote mega group of the time.
Wow. I read in your book that the earthquake in San Francisco may have inspired some of the Humpty Dance.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Tell us the story about how the Humpty Dance came to be and how that...
We had this video coming up. We had the song. We knew the song was great. But 2 days before the video shoot, one, we didn't know if anybody was going to show up. But more importantly, we didn't have the dance.
And you have to have, it's called the Humpty Dance.
It's called the Humpty Dance. So we needed a dance. And my brother Cullen and one of our members, more so Raw Fusion, the group that me and DJ Fuse had, but he was also part of Digital Underground. He's actually on the Sex Packets cover, Mac Moan. They were tasked with, all right, come up with a dance. But it was really my brother who kind of came up with the original concept of, this rocking sort of motion, which we attributed to, the earthquake and keeping your balance and the ground is moving and what's going on,
Amazing.
So the Humpty Dance was definitely inspired by that turn of events, which it was a catastrophic event. It was a tragedy, but that came out of it.
Amazing.